morning, friends of Greenbelt. This is my sixth time to be here over 20 years, and I just want to thank the angels, the volunteers, and those of you that got roped into sitting in on this session for the gift of this. We don't have anything in the United States. You can probably tell from my dialect I am from the colonies, and we don't have anything like Greenbelt, and it's such a gift to come here because people are struggling with much broader issues of social justice, the Micah Project to make poverty history, new forms of church, new ways to be a difference and make a difference. And what I've been saying in my seminars that I'll say this afternoon is we work in our little ministry, Mustard Seed Associates, try to help people make sense of the future and imagine new ways to reinvent their lives, churches, and so on to make a difference. And good news and bad news, and the bad news is that the needs of our neighbors throughout this planet are increasing. When we hit the peak oil future in the next 10 years, when the price of petrol could double, that's not just going to impact the middle class in the UK, it's going to impact our poorest neighbors because all of the fertilizers are petrochemically based. And so we could see a food crisis as we move into that eventual future. Many of you are struggling with the impacts of the recession that I spoke about to church leaders here September of '08 and said, I think a global recession might be coming, and I don't think I convinced them. But we're trying to help people realize that even though the recession is officially over, we're going to be in a stormy time for years to come. And it's going to be particularly hard for the younger and the older. The younger people have been all scripted to live out their parents' lifestyle. And this will be the first generation, many of whom will not have never gain the lifestyles they were raised with. And so we've been talking about reimagining how to live and how to be followers of Jesus in a changing time. The good news I bring is God is working through a new generation of 20, 30, and 40-year-olds to reimagine the church. It began here in the UK with the Johnny Bakers, Phil Walls, Russell Rooks, Phil and Wendy Wall, Russell Rook, and young church planters that created something called postmodern or emerging churches, which I'll be talking about today. New forms of church and mission and advocacy. It came to Australia and New Zealand in the early 90s, and it reached the States in about the mid-90s. It was not invented in America. We were the last to come to the party. But these young people, because of the changing times, are challenging us all to raise the bar. They're calling us to more authentic, whole life faith. Authentic is a very important word for them. And part of what we've been talking about yesterday in terms of looking sideways is the kind of faith that we have in the American church really baptizes the dominant culture in terms of privileged lifestyles and all of that. And following Jesus is something we work in around the edges. The problem with that model is the marketers of the global economy are trying to convince us to buy more into their dreams and aspirations, really fables and stories. And out of that, we have less time and resource for church. So not only is the church declining and graying in Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, and the States, we're seeing declining levels of participation. So the call to more authentic whole life faith is a really important call. So yesterday and today, we're going to call older folks in the church to consider joining the younger people to a call to more authentic whole life faith, whole life discipleship, and whole life stewardship. We do battle with tithe stewardship. We understand the Old Testament origins, but there's no 10% in the New Testament, I'm sorry. Following Jesus is a whole life deal. Not that we all give away everything, but it's finding a sense of how God wants to use our lives or mustard seeds to make a difference and reprioritize our lives. So the first call is a call to create new, more serious forms of discipleship. And I think increasingly, it's going to be important for people to think about new forms of community. The cell movement in Britain has been very big out of the charismatic stream and those other days. And that's one form of community. And we at least need that much because the stormy times are going to continue. We're going to need more mutual support, but also people that focus us outward. Yesterday, we talked about creating a range of other communities. Shane Claiborne has been through here, and he lives in the Simple Way community. People read his book, middle-class people read his book in America, and they are very challenged but they can't imagine moving in with Shane. So we're talking about co-housing and creating a range of other ways to create a way of life that's not just simpler and more sustainable, more celebrative. American Idol and reality television with church on Sunday is not what God had in mind. And allowing culture and income to define our lifestyles is not whole life faith. And finally, we need to create more missional churches, and Fresh Expressions here in the UK is helping established churches get out of the buildings. You guys are much better at it in Britain than we are in the States. And so I just think we're in a time of challenge, which is also a time of opportunity. And all of us need to reimagine how to live, how to raise kids, how to reimagine, reinvent our churches to discover how God can use our mustard seeds, our lives, our communities to make a difference in ways we've never imagined. And it's easier for me to talk about this here than back in Tea Party America, where they're sidetracked with other issues. Grateful, deeply grateful for Greenbelt and the difference it makes in the lives of people here and through your lives all over the world. Thank you.